So welcome everybody, and to those of you watching this on video, welcome to you. The topic for tonight is acceptance and non-striving, and this is I get questions about this all the time. It may be the thing I get the most questions about in the course, except for if I'm fall asleep while I'm meditating, did I do it wrong? or I'm thinking I must not be doing things right. And of course, those are relatively easy answers, easy questions to give answers to. But this one is hard, because what does that mean? Sometimes I get emails from people. I took a few of them, and one of them says, "Won't being mindful and at peace make me less effective? Don't we have to work hard to be successful at work? And wouldn't I wind up being knee-deep in dust bunnies at home if I accepted everything being the way it is?" Another one is, they get more serious. I got three of them here. "What about activism and working towards social justice? How can anyone do that important work and still accept things the way they are? Some things are just not acceptable." And the third, "How does acceptance and non-striving apply if you're being attacked verbally or physically?" And these are all, it's not easy. Those aren't easy questions to answer, and especially by email, because I get these things by email from the online course. And you can imagine how I struggled to answer that in an email, because it's a complex question. What does acceptance and non-striving really mean? I mean, is it applicable when you have to take action? And it is, but there are some subtleties to it. And that's what tonight's really about. First off, acceptance and non-striving, it sounds like it means giving in and giving up, but it doesn't. It means, we'll talk more about what it means, but it has more to do with accepting what's happening at the moment, not liking it, not agreeing with it necessarily, but noticing what's happening for you internally and what's happening externally. And I found it, in thinking about this, whenever I would have to answer this question, it was helpful to think of it in terms of intention, and in terms of attachment. You can have the degree of intention you bring to something is how much energy you put toward it, how important it is to you, how much work you're going to do to make sure that whatever it is happens, and intention for a specific outcome. And attachment has to do with the degree of identification you have with a specific outcome. Are you going to be okay if it doesn't turn out exactly the way you thought it would? What if circumstances change? And taking those two parameters helps us kind of to sort out just what it means to have to be non-striving in a case maybe where you have to take some action, maybe even an intervention of sorts where you have to disrupt something that's going on. So at the one extreme, there's, if you use intention and attachment, there's low intention, low attachment. This is what people often think of when you say we're talking about acceptance and non-striving. And in this, where you have no low intention, low attachment, you don't care. Everything that happens, and you don't really try to change it anyway. There's complacency, there's inactivity, there's compliance. This is a state where you could find yourself in a position of harm because you don't want to you trust somebody you shouldn't trust, or because you're in a situation that requires some action but you don't take it, either because you don't want to upset somebody or you don't want to cause waves. Now obviously that's not a good place to be, low intention, low attachment. The other extreme is high intention, high attachment, where it's so important, a particular outcome or a cause, it's so important that you'll put and expend a lot of energy and a lot of time to make something happen. And high attachment means you have a specific idea of what it looks like. You'll be devastated if it doesn't turn out the way that you expect it to. You invest everything in it. There's no time to be content because there's always something more to do. It's a time where of really constant vigilance, in a mode in which everything has to be perfect. You have to be perfect, and the people around you doing this work have to be perfect. You probably know people like that. Sometimes we're that person, because we put so much energy into it. And the high attachment part of it makes it problematic. It's really noble to have a high intention, but if there's a high attachment, then if things go a little bit wrong, what happens? You get devastated, maybe you lash out, maybe you just go into a depression, you wind up in the other side of things, low intention, low attachment. And if circumstances change, it's hard to adjust because you have a specific idea of how it's going to turn out. But fortunately, there's a sweet spot in between. And that's what this topic is really about, where we have a high intention, an idea of what needs to be accomplished, or somebody or something that needs to be taken care of. But at the same time, a low attachment. If things change, it doesn't turn out or start to go the way that you expected it was going to, you can change course fairly easily. If it looks like you're not going to achieve the goal the way you think you're going to achieve, you're not devastated, and you can make new plans that are appropriate for you. And in this case, I'm going to make a little chart. Maybe I'm hoping I can put it up on the web when we do the notes for this one. It's a chart that was inspired by Liv Downing, who put these options on opposite ends of a spectrum. The low intention, low attachment, this giving up, giving in. High intention, high attachment, this striving, pushing, rigidly forcing something. And in between, she called it acceptance, and I'm going to change it a little bit and say acceptance, awareness, acceptance. Acceptance is a little bit problematic because you think the word acceptance, you think it means that you agree with everything, that everything that happens, the direction it's going is really okay, when it may not be. But at the moment, it's important to be aware of what's going on. So in this place, there's high intention but low attachment. Awareness of what's going on. You notice what's going on mentally, in terms of thoughts, emotionally, in terms of your feelings, in terms of your senses. Your body gives you information, what's going on around you. All this is taken into account. And the acceptance part of that is really awareness of that. This is the situation. This is the situation you're in now. And what tends to happen, if you can really find yourself in that state where you can acknowledge just what's going on with you and have a realistic idea of what's going on out there, that's the acceptance part of it. Out of that acknowledgement of what's going on, and out of that kind of, it's in a way you're kind of metabolizing all the stuff that's going on, your emotions, your mind, your sensations, and out of that, if you've really completely integrated those, and out of that will come appropriate action, without even have to figure out exactly what it is, because it's all integrated in your thoughts, your emotions, everything. And of course, in this mode, it doesn't mean giving up of values or giving into harmful behavior. It just means you're acknowledging just how things are. And in easy times, acceptance and not striving, that's a no-brainer. Just take things as they are. You're in a nice situation, it's comfortable, and in that context, it means you're not thinking about what bad thing might happen in the future or what things have happened in the past. You're truly in the present. But this difficult case, when you're in a time of crisis, is different than that. You have to be taking into account what's going on, and maybe action is required. So I was thinking about who really exemplifies this way of being, and the two that came to mind were Martin Luther King and Mahatma Gandhi. They clearly had high intention, but also if you look at how they operated, they also had low attachment, in the sense that when things didn't turn out, they didn't hold on to one way of approaching things. They shifted course based on how things were, and their acceptance was an acceptance of how things were, an acceptance in the sense that things were bad in terms of civil rights. Things were bad in terms of how people were treated in Gandhi's country of India. And it was important for both of them to have an accurate idea of how things actually are and what's going on internally and externally. And from there, and it's only from there that you could act appropriately. And of course, it's true that this is easier said than done. How do you maintain this attitude of non-striving and of acceptance in difficult times? How do you do that in crisis? How do you do that when in times of danger where you do have to act? How do you do? And there isn't an easy answer to it. But the good news is that being able to maintain a balance and have a sense of inner stillness is what we're talking about, at least on a relative basis, in a time of crisis, is something that can be learned. We can train ourselves to do that. And that's really a lot of what this mindfulness practice is about. It's about training to do that. You sit down to a sitting meditation, and I don't know what your experience is, but mine is sometimes I sit down and I think, well, 5 minutes feels like enough, so I have a lot of things to do, but I'm fairly disciplined about it. I sit down, my own practice is half an hour, and even though those moments come up, I stay with it. That's exercising intention. And I know that the things come up with thoughts about things I have to do and emotions about how I'd like things to be and physical sensations, if it might not be perfectly comfortable how I'm sitting. I know those change with time, so I don't have a high attachment with how things are. And you've probably had the experience of when you begin a practice, maybe you start out with feeling like, maybe I don't want to do it today. Maybe better, I've got other things to do. But by the end, usually you're glad you did it. It's done, and you're happy that you've done that. And the other kinds of practice, the informal practices also apply. The things like stop, where you create a pause in the middle of something. And that's the time. The acceptance part is you're accepting what's going on with you mentally and emotionally and physically. And from that place, then when you turn your attention back to the outside world, then you're ready to meet it at an appropriate level because you've checked in. So all that's training. And the last thing I'll leave you with is what Lauren's major advisor in graduate school would always say, and I've always remembered this. He says the trick in life is to take yourself seriously without taking yourself seriously. The problem is most people get it backwards. Now you laugh because in a way it doesn't make sense. You try to think about that logically, it doesn't make sense, but you kind of get it, right? I mean, what he's talking about is he's really talking about high intention, low attachment. That's taking yourself seriously without taking yourself seriously. And getting it backwards is doing it one of the other ways. There's actually a fourth way, which is kind of interesting. It's having high attachment but low intention. Do you know what that looks like? This is like wishful thinking. It's like, I want to be a surgeon. I'm going to be a surgeon. That's what I'm going to do. I really want to be a surgeon. But you never get around to applying to school. So not very likely you're going to get there. But most of us wind up in one of those two extremes. And so this topic and this practice is really about finding that place in between, which is really not giving up either benefit from the other extremes, the calmness and the ease of low attachment and the energy that might be needed in terms of high intention. So we'll, like we usually do, we'll start with a meditation. So just making yourself comfortable. And just taking a moment, we're talking about acceptance and non-striving, so just in that sense, just noticing how it is for you right now. Not trying to make yourself peaceful or anything necessarily, but just noticing how you are right now. If things have been going on during the day and there's still some energy about that, you can notice that. We're not trying to make that go away. You can notice how it feels to be sitting, the support you're getting from the chair or from the couch. You notice how your arms are resting in your lap or your legs or your sides. And we're just noticing how things are. We're not trying to fix them or change them in any way. Just sensing in from your body how it is to be sitting here right now. And it's both a sensing into body sensation, and it's also a reaching out to those parts of your body you haven't paid much attention to lately. It's like you're saying hello to them, acknowledging that they're there. And when you're ready, just finding a breath, wherever it's most vivid for you. Could be in your tummy, the movement you can feel in your belly as you breathe, or your chest. Could be your throat or your nostrils. Just wherever you can actually sense the movement of breath. And not directing it, just noticing it. Feeling it. Tracking it. Letting yourself feel and experience all the various parts of the cycles of breath. And if you find yourself lost in thought or a memory or an image, that's perfectly fine. That's actually part of the meditation, but coming back to sensations of breathing in a gentle but firm way. And as you sit there, you might recall a time when you were doing something that might have been fairly pleasant. You're involved in doing a piece of art or some writing or something where you were just totally engaged in that. It's kind of one of those moments of flow where your attention was so much on that you lost track of time, maybe, because you're so involved in the task. There's no sense of striving. You didn't have to think about acceptance. You were just totally involved and engaged. And whether it's a project or a piece of art, something you're writing or doing or building, or time just disappeared. And there may be several experiences that come up for you that fall into that category where you're so engaged with what you're doing that you weren't thinking about the past or the future. You're just right there. And you might look up at the clock and discovered an hour had passed, you didn't even notice it. And when you're ready, letting that experience go for a moment, and seeing if you can recall a time where it was a time where it required all of what you had, all of your resources. Maybe you're responding to somebody in trouble, helping somebody out in a time of need, or something had happened that you hadn't anticipated and had gone wrong but needs attention, something breaking or falling apart, or somebody breaking or falling apart. And at this time, this experience that you're recalling is a time where you were totally engaged in it, but there wasn't a sense of inner conflict about it. You knew what you had to do. You were all in. And there's a sense of flow in terms of what you needed to do, whether you're with somebody in a time of need or attending to something that needed to be fixed or attended to. And somehow you wouldn't have expected you had all these resources, but you had them. And in a strange sort of way, it wasn't hard. You were just totally involved in the task or in being with somebody. The rest of the meditation will be silent, and you can continue on the theme of acceptance and non-striving in your own life if you like, with the events that came up or ones like it. Or you can make it a breath meditation, or make it any kind of meditation you'd like it to be. The next 8 or 10 minutes will be your time. And I'll sound the bell when the meditation ends.